Hello and welcome to an introduction to the National Record Locator, a service developed by NHS Digital, provided at no charge to all authorised users for the benefit of patients and care users throughout the country. I'll briefly be covering what it does, how it works, give you an idea of where it's in use, a brief IG overview, where it's going next, and finally how you can get access to it. The National Record Locator is a national index of pointers to patient records. It enables an authorised clinician, care worker, and/or administrator in any health or care setting to access a patient's information to support that patient's direct care. This opens NRL up to a huge range of potential use cases and care settings, but it can only be achieved by following a simple set of principles. Crucially, NRL does not store records centrally. The record custodians, or data controllers as they're known under GDPR, retain the master record and responsibility for its content locally. NRL only stores an index of those records, showing where they are located nationally, and provides the means to access a read-only copy for the purposes of direct care. So what does the National Record Locator do? Well, the best way to demonstrate this is via a worked example. Let's say we have a mental health patient who lives in Preston. They're under the care of Lancashire Mental Health Trust, who have created a mental health crisis plan which they share on the NRL. The patient travels down to London on a day trip. For one reason or another, they find themselves in a mental health crisis situation, require emergency care, and call 999. London Ambulance receive the call and access the NRL to retrieve the crisis plan. With this information instantly at their fingertips, they're able to provide better care to the patient at the scene, which may ultimately mean conveying the patient to hospital is unnecessary. This example only represents the very first use case implemented on the NRL, but hopefully you can see the potential benefit NRL can provide to many different care settings and document types, some of which are already live or in the process of being implemented. NRL is connecting local and regional sharing initiatives such as LICRAs, shared care records, suppliers, and individual trusts, giving them all a national presence. To scale this up, local data sharing agreements are insufficient, so NRL have implemented a national information governance model. More on this later. So, just to recap a few basic concepts. NRL is an index of pointers that's used to locate patient records nationally. A pointer is an entry on the NRL index that points to a single record associated with a patient. A provider is an organisation that makes patient records available on the NRL and is responsible for uploading pointers to the NRL, such as a care home making end-of-life plans available. A consumer is an organisation that accesses the NRL to view pointers for a specific patient and retrieve records for the purposes of direct care, such as an ambulance service consuming those end-of-life plans. And finally, a consuming application is used by the consumer to view pointers on the NRL and retrieve records. The consuming application could either be a supplier application integrated to the NRL API, or it could be the NHS Digital provided SCRA, Summary Care Record Application. The following slides show examples of the SCRA. Here we have a screenshot of the new SCRA, Summary Care Record Application. Although other alternatives exist, all of our existing customers have chosen to use the SCRA to access the NRL, as it's been developed by NHS Digital and provided to users for free, meaning consuming organisations can be up and running with the SCRA within a very short period of time. There's no development involved and therefore very little effort to get up and running. Once you've logged on to the SCRA via a browser using your smart card, you'll be able to identify the patient's NHS number using the patient demographic service. You'll then be taken to the landing page, the overview. If there are any pointers available for that given patient, then this will be indicated in the available documents pane. Clicking on the highlighted link will provide you with a list of all the pointers. In this example, we can see that one of the providers, Lancashire Care Foundation Trust, have chosen to make contact information available to the consumer. This is particularly useful in situations where either a document is not available for retrieval or the consumer would like to call the team responsible for providing care to the patient. By clicking on the contact information, we're taken to a publicly available web page hosted by the providing organisation. Returning to our original example, this could be the specific crisis team within Lancashire Care that is responsible for providing care to that patient. The other link available on the pointer is to an initiate record retrieval. By clicking on the View Document link, we're able to retrieve a read-only snapshot of the crisis plan held at the Trust. And here we have the crisis plan itself. So picture this, you're a paramedic in an ambulance on the way to treat a patient who is reported to be in crisis. Not only has NRL identified that the patient is a mental health patient, but it's provided you with the means to best treat that patient before you've even arrived at the scene. Now apply that same logic to all the different record types and use cases you can think of, and you'll start to get an idea about the full potential that NRL has to offer. I referred to it as a snapshot because I wanted to emphasize that NRL is not about transferring documents from one organization to another. The provider retains the responsibility for maintaining the document. So if a consumer receives a document on the NRL on a Monday and finds they need to access the same document a week later, they must access the NRL again. This way they can ensure they pick up any updates made by the provider in the interim period. So how do we make this happen? The provider creates the pointer, which is uploaded to the NRL. The consumer searches for pointers. If a link to publicly available contact details has been provided for the individual or teams caring for the patient, then these can be accessed over the internet. The consumer retrieves the record from the provider. All of these interactions are channeled centrally via the NRL and the Spine Secure proxy, the SSP, which handle all authentication and authorization centrally. This gives us the means to scale up record sharing nationally, as organizations no longer need to perform multiple separate point-to-point integrations. Only a single integration with the NRL is required. Retrieved records can be viewed either on the desktop version of the new SCRA that we saw earlier using smart cards, or in a mobile version of the SCRA accessible from iPads integrated with the NHS Identity Service, making use of biometric authentication such as fingerprints instead of smart cards. Alternatively, a consumer can integrate directly with NRL's API to provide access from within their native application. So where is the NRL in use, and who are we working with? We're already live in 5 regions covered by ambulance services, with the remaining 5 actively engaged to complete full national coverage. We're integrated across multiple trusts, care homes, and shared care records, with many more, including Lycras in the pipeline. This is particularly important. We're not here to compete with suppliers or regional sharing initiatives. We're here to stitch them together and offer them a truly national platform to share the information they hold. So in fact, we need them to grow and prosper so that the information they share via the NRL becomes richer and more widely available. Our existing use cases include mental health crisis plans, e-Red Bag, end of life, About Me, emergency healthcare plan, and many more on the way. Since our initial go live in 2018, we've had over 85,000 pointers uploaded and over 20,000 searches on the SCRA with over 250 records retrieved. On to everyone's favourite topic, IG. As the health industry has learned from previous engagements, it's no good having a working technical model unless it's underpinned by a robust information governance model that complies with the latest GDPR legislation. NRL's gone through a comprehensive consultation to develop its IG model that's been approved by IG and legal experts, the Data Protection Office and Caldecott Guardian. Our IG principles are based upon the service being used for direct care, where there is a lawful basis, and only by those who have a legitimate relationship with the patient. All participating organisations must have appropriate IG roles in place to undertake their own assessment and to ensure they fulfil their own responsibilities under GDPR. Our IG model has been developed to operate at a national scale, meaning all participants only need to sign a single data sharing arrangement once. This removes the need for multiple point-to-point sharing agreements and ensures that all participants are operating to the same consistent known set of principles and responsibilities. Our access control model includes an organisational filter. This helps us to minimise the risk of organisations receiving pointers to record types which they have no legitimate reason to be viewing. Of course, this doesn't remove the need to exercise the usual methods of professional responsibility, audit, and disciplinary measures that organisations already apply at a local level. We have a nationally defined role-based access control model that is applied to all consumers accessing the NRL via the SERA. This allows organisations to implement 2 tiers of access if they wish to: full access to pointers, contact information and retrieval, or restricted access to pointers and contact information. The first may be useful for a clinician, for example, and the second perhaps for an administrator. Organisations that integrate directly into their own software solution have full flexibility to determine their RBAC in line with their own local policies. We have future-proofed the solution by providing an additional category for sensitive document types. These are only expected to be used in extreme circumstances for record types such as FGM or adoption and so forth. Our current set of approved record types all sit within the general use category at present. If you'd like to join the NRL as a new provider or a new consumer, or even introduce a new record type, then shortly after getting in touch with us, we'll likely send you an application form for you to complete to submit your request to the Integrated Working Group, the IWG. The IWG is an NHS digital group of SMEs from a range of disciplines including clinical, IG, technical, amongst others, that act as a gateway to the sharing club. They'll assess your application and ensure that the NRL is the right tool to meet your business need. Once approved, we add all new providers, consumers and record types to the controller catalogue. This is available to all participants, but is particularly useful for providers to ensure they can meet their GDPR obligations by understanding exactly who their patient records are being shared with at any given time. So what next for NRL? Now that the solution has proven its benefit in live service, our main focus is expansion. So as I mentioned before, we're on the lookout for new use cases and record types, so if you think you might have one, we're keen to hear from you. We're currently limited to sharing via PDFs in recognition that some of the record types do not have confirmed PRSB standards in place, and therefore may vary in exact content from provider to provider. That said, the NRL already supports structured record retrieval, and it's only a matter of time before that use cases that require it come along. The mobile version of SCRA is currently only available on iPads, but the NHS Identity team are looking at ways to make it available on other devices, such as Windows and Android. Finally, the NRL is engaged with the LICRA community, local healthcare records, to develop a model whereby they are able to share amongst each other and beyond, again using the NRL as a central hub. So how do you get access to the NRL? Let's start with the provider and consumer prerequisites if you're looking to integrate with the NRL API to share information. You'll need a valid ODS code. You'll need an NHS number verification method via any of the following mechanisms: full PDS spine compliance system, SMSP, or DBS. As part of its Internet First initiative, NHS Digital are looking to move as many of its services onto the Internet as possible. Depending on which verification service you use, you may require an N3 or HSCN connection to access it. You'll also need an approved authentication method, only if consuming from the NRL. This can either be using a smart card or an NHS identity integrated solution, such as the iPads that London Ambulance Service are currently using to access the NRL on the road using biometrics. You'll need to complete the Data Security Protection Toolkit. You need to undertake annual security testing on your solution, and you'll need a clinical safety officer to undertake a clinical safety assessment. Assuming you can meet these prereqs, then the onboarding process is relatively straightforward. Firstly, you'll need to commence any applicable local clinical safety or IG assessments, review the onboarding documentation, develop against the online reference implementation. The next step is local testing using TKW. That's a local pack that you can download to test your solution locally, and it acts as the gateway onto integration testing, which is done with NHS Digital in the Path to Live environments. Whilst you're doing that, you'll need to complete the Supplier Conformance Assessment List, the SCAL, sign the data sharing arrangement and connection agreement, obtain all necessary local approvals for Go Live, and then you move on to live pipe cleaning, which is simply a test using fictional patients in the live environment to ensure that your solution is functioning correctly before moving on to a bulk upload in the live environment. Further information is included on the NRL onboarding guide for direct API integration, available on our GitHub site and the link shown on the screen, alongside the technical specification. If you're looking to consume from the NRL using the SCRA, the onboarding process is even simpler. It can often be achieved within just a few weeks. To start with, you'll commence any applicable local safety, clinical safety IG assessments. You'll need to update local business processes and train users. We've got guides that are available to help you for that. You need to obtain all necessary local approvals for go live, e.g. clinical safety, IG, board approvals. Deploy latest NHS identity agent to all users. We can show you where to download that from. Likewise, deploy the National Identity Hub to all users. Add the RBAC codes for each user for an NRL. These can be provided to you. And sign the NHS DSA, the data sharing arrangement for NRL. Finally, we'll do a quick live validation to check that you're able to see a test pointer and retrieve a record. NHS Digital can guide you through the whole process step by step. There's more detail again on a specific onboarding guide for SCRA users. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation today. Listed on the screen are links to a number of resources where you can find further detail. There's a service overview that can be found on the NHS Digital website, which gives an introduction to NRL covering the use cases and benefits. Technical specification, which is a one-stop shop for all technical personnel looking to integrate with the NRL using the NRL Fire API. Provides all the detail on API interactions and technical requirements. There's also a demonstrator available online which shows how the NRL can be used in a consumer system. There's an online reference implementation which can be used to explore the API and test out the various functions available. And finally, the onboarding guide is available on GitHub and provides all the information required to integrate the NRL service from initial engagement to going live, with step-by-step guidance and directions to supporting resources. This slide deck is available online where you can access the links to the resources. If you have any questions or would like to start the onboarding process, please contact the team using the email address shown. Many thanks for listening. We look forward to hearing from you soon.